Hey everyone, I am so thrilled you're here with me today. If you're someone who loves dissecting ideas and really breaking down complex concepts into their absolute fundamental parts, well, you are exactly where you need to be. Today's explainer is going to be a bit different, kind of more contemplative than usual. We are taking a deep, intensely focused dive into a remarkably brief yet incredibly profound source text. I mean, think about the sheer audacity of this. We are going to deconstruct what is essentially just a single heading and a subject. But within those few isolated words lies literally one of the most enduring, powerful metaphors for human communication ever conceived. We're going to examine the spaces between the words, the sheer weight of a single proper noun, and the tragic collapse of understanding. For the next 9 minutes, we are going to strip this entire concept down to the studs. So, are you ready? Let's get right into it. I want you to just pause and really think about this for a second. What actually happens when humanity speaks with one single unified voice? It's a massive philosophical question, right? And it's one that has haunted us for millennia. Imagine a scenario where there are absolutely zero barriers to communication. No mistranslations at all, no cultural disconnects, just an absolute frictionless unity of purpose. When we're entirely aligned like that, what are we actually capable of building? And conversely, what are the invisible forces that inevitably pull that perfect unity apart? Because that fragile balance between creation and destruction, that is the exact stage for our exploration today. Okay. Let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap for the explainer. 1. The pasted text. 2. Anatomy of the tower. 3. The meaning of Babel. 4. The fracture of language. And finally 5. The archetype of ambition.
All right, section 1, the pasted text. Let's analyze this source heading.
Now, what's really interesting here is the stark conceptual juxtaposition we're dealing with. We have an Arabic heading from our source, which perfectly translates to the pasted text, and it's directly paired with the English subject matter, the Tower of Babel. So we're looking at a culturally distinct, somewhat fragmented heading that's introducing a myth literally about the loss of universal language. It is incredibly jarring, in the best way possible, to see two entirely different linguistic histories collide like this without any surrounding context. You are directly experiencing the very concept of translation, isolation, and linguistic transition that the Babel story fundamentally represents. By definition, a pasted text is just a snippet. It's a fragment. It's an excerpt deliberately placed outside of its original unifying context. Think about the physical, literal sensation of pasting something. Before you can paste, there has to be a prior act of cutting, right? Something had to be severed from its original source. And when you cut an idea out of its home, well, what happens to its edges? They become frayed. The context just bleeds out. It becomes disjointed. I absolutely love how this meta-framing perfectly mirrors the whole theme of broken communication. Our source isn't a continuous, unified narrative. It's a fragmented snippet, forcibly removed from whatever world used to surround it. And that profound isolation of a pasted text, it represents words without their world. When you clip a single sentence out of a book, it loses the chapters that came before it and the chapters that follow. It loses its contextual home. You know, it's exactly like walking into a super complex movie halfway through the film. You can hear the dialogue perfectly fine, but you have absolutely none of the plot to anchor it. This is exactly what happens when languages are scattered. Words lose their shared world. The mutual understanding that historically grounded them suddenly vanishes, leaving behind only isolated, disconnected fragments that we have to try and somehow piece back together. Moving right along to section 2, Anatomy of the Tower. The architecture of human ambition. So, the crucial point here is that in the context of Babel, a tower is never just a building, not even close. It is an edifice of ambition. It represents humanity's unified upward reach. When an entire civilization decides to build a massive tower, they're making a profound psychological statement. They're stacking their ingenuity, their labor, and their absolute collective will into a single vertical point. It's the physical manifestation of a unified species basically trying to transcend its natural boundaries. Building upward is an act of defiance. It says, you know what, we are no longer satisfied with the ground we were giving. We are going to dictate our own heights. Let's methodically trace the metaphorical blueprint of this edifice, because it really matters. First, it requires complete unity. I mean, you just cannot build something monumental if the workers cannot understand each other, period. Second, it requires grand ambition, the absolute audacity to build something unprecedented. Third, there's the upward reach. The structure defies gravity. It reaches for the heavens, seeking to elevate the builders way above their earthly station. And fourth, it inevitably hits the ultimate limit. This is the crucial part. Think about the immense, creeping tension right before that limit is hit. The tower is swaying, the logistics are becoming impossibly complex, the air's getting thin. There's a rigid ceiling to what human unity can actually achieve before the sheer weight of the ambition that built the tower threatens the balance of the world itself.
Which brings us to the midpoint of our explainer. Section 3, the meaning of Babel, the turning point.
Babel. It's just a single, striking word, but man, it carries an immense, almost suffocating weight. This is the exact fulcrum on which the entire story balances. It's the razor's edge between absolute harmony and total chaos. In our source text, it just sits there as a proper noun, but the cultural weight of this word stretches across centuries, carrying the memory of our ultimate, epic failure to communicate. Babel is defined as a scene of noise and confusion. It's a total breakdown in shared reality, and it beautifully bridges the gap between a mythological place name and a universal human condition. When a massive project fails completely because people can no longer agree on basic facts or understand each other's instructions, that is Babel. It is the terrifying moment when the shared reality you completely took for granted simply dissolves. It's kind of like trying to assemble a massive piece of flat-pack furniture with a partner, but you both vehemently disagree on what piece A actually is, and you're reading instructions in two entirely different languages. That micro-chaos, that extreme frustration, that is Babel on a personal scale. And this pivot matters so much because it highlights just how incredibly fragile our mutual understanding really is. It takes immense, sustained effort to maintain absolute linguistic unity, doesn't it? To make sure we mean the exact same things when we use the exact same words. But the pivot to utter, scattered chaos, that happens in an instant. This is absolutely crucial, so I want to repeat it. Understanding is a monumental construction, but confusion requires literally no effort at all. I'll say that again. Understanding is a monumental construction. Confusion requires no effort at all. Chaos is our natural default state, the exact moment the tower falls. Moving into Section 4, the fracture of language, a breakdown in communication. And this brilliantly illustrates the vast canyon between two extremes. We have the ultimate ideal, complete mutual understanding, that era of one voice. And then we have our current reality, fractured, pasted fragments. Make no mistake, we are living entirely in the reality of the latter. Think about our modern digital existence for a second. We are constantly dealing with text and speech that has been cut up, translated, misinterpreted, and pasted into totally new, confusing contexts. I mean, social media algorithms practically thrive on stripping away context, serving us these isolated fragments of outrage or information. The transition from perfect unity to fragmented pasting isn't just some ancient myth. It is the daily, tragic fall we experience every single time we log online and try to communicate with each other. So let's elaborate on the real-world implications of this fracture. Number 1, the loss of shared context. When language shatters, we no longer share the underlying assumptions of our neighbors. It's gone. Number 2, the struggle of translation. Our source excerpt itself had to be translated. And the thing is, translation is never perfect. It's always an approximation, inherently limited by the boundaries of different cultures. And number 3, ideas existing in isolation. Beautiful, profound ideas can become completely trapped, almost like a butterfly caught in a glass jar. You can see it, it's right there, but without the precise linguistic bridge to express it to someone else, that idea remains locked away in isolation, unable to connect with the broader human experience. And finally, Section 5, the archetype of ambition. Let's look at the cycle of human endeavors. Let's move to our grand conclusion here and see how this builds, because the story of Babel is, at its absolute core, the ultimate story of human limitation. It reminds us that no matter how hyper-organized we are, no matter how incredibly powerful our technology becomes, or how genuinely unified our initial intent might be, there is an innate limit to human endeavors. Our capacity to deeply understand one another has a ceiling. When we try to build beyond that ceiling, the very tools we use to connect, our words, our systems, our ambitions, they ironically become the instruments of our scattering. It's a weighty, incredibly sobering climax to a story that starts with such incredible optimism. It forms this predictable, almost tragic cycle. Step 1 is the unified goal. We all agree on what to build. Step 2 is the monumental effort, the actual stacking of the bricks, the pooling of immense resources. But then, inevitably, comes Step 3, misalignment. The project just becomes too big, the specific jargon becomes too complex, and fatal misunderstandings creep in. Which leads directly to Step 4, the scattering of purpose. The builders abandon the project and walk away in completely different directions. And we see this all the time today. Think of a massive corporate merger. Two unified companies come together with grand ambitions to build an empire. They pour in monumental effort. But soon, cultural misalignment takes over. Communication completely breaks down, and what started as a unified goal scatters into 1,000 frustrated, disjointed departments. So I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. In our incredibly fast-paced modern world, a world literally built on pasted texts, out-of-context quotes, and completely fragmented snippets of communication, are we building our own Towers of Babel today? Are our vast digital networks genuinely creating ultimate unity, or are they just rapidly accelerating our eventual misalignment and scattering? It is definitely something to deeply ponder the next time you try to communicate something complex in a fragmented space. Thank you so much for focusing in with me on this explainer. Until next time, keep questioning, keep learning, and keep trying to build those bridges across the fracture.